Brew, we know that you're always ready to rock with the Broncos, but we'll address the first story first. That's a good little thing.
Yeah.
Should the Broncos fire Nathaniel Hackett if this week in London doesn't go well?
Should is strong.
Okay.
But I'll say this. If they lose, why not? Because he's getting fired sooner or later.
True.
We all know this. And I admit Russ hasn't helped him out for sure.
Oh.
But we know he's getting fired either after this game, later in the season, or after the season, barring some miraculous
going to be their coach in 2023.
Yes. So what firing him would do is, and it's a long shot, but give them a chance this season. Who thought Rich Bisaccia was going to turn around the Raiders last year? Okay, I'm not saying you count on it, whoever the assistant that got promoted. I'm not saying you count on him turning them around, but who knows? Maybe it will happen. I've had ex-NFL players tell me that Nathaniel Hackett lost that team
Week 1
after the first game.
Yeah.
When he went for the 64-yard field goal. So, yeah, if it's going to happen, it's inevitable. Why not now?
So I, after the second game, said I would consider firing him. The first game we saw the single most inexplicable coaching decision I've ever seen, and the second game was worse. The second game he had 3 is unbelievable. So I think people expect me to be like, yeah, of course, if you lose in London on Sunday, you should fire him. I actually think firing him at any point this season is a terrible idea.
Oh, really?
Sure.
I think there is no turning the team around. First of all, I don't know who the new head coach would be. Dom Capers, who is 72 years old, and he's also, he's an older gentleman who hasn't been a head coach in 15 years. The only person on the staff with any head coaching experience. So there's not an obvious fit there. Similar to what happened with the Raiders, but the Raiders didn't want to fire John Gruden. It was because of off-field issues. So they don't have an obvious head coach. They have a brutal schedule that we can show you. There's no turning this thing around. But that's not, they have the Chiefs twice remaining. They have the Rams. They have the Ravens. The Chargers still. It's a brutal remaining schedule. They needed to get off to a great start. But here's why I wouldn't fire him until the end of the year. Their only hope in Denver is getting Sean Payton, who you've talked about, or the next great offensive mind. If once you move on from Nathaniel Hackett, Mr. Unlimited still looks like Mr. Incredibly Limited. And you don't have the built-in excuse of Russ is fine, Russ is good. It was the coach. What if they fire him and Russ is awful for the next 2 months? Sean Payton taking that job? No, he's not. Did any great offensive mind want that job with 6 more years and a couple $100 million on Russ's contract? No. So they need Nathaniel Hackett to be there as the built-in fall guy for the inevitable terrible season Russell Wilson's in the midst of. So I wouldn't fire him because I think if Russ is terrible without him, Brew, why would Sean Payton or anyone similar to that take that job?
It makes sense. But I'm not counting on, and if I'm the Denver Brain Trust, are you counting on Russ being terrible the rest of the year?
Do they have access to game film?
But I'm just saying, you can't make this decision while it's based on Russ is horrible anyway. Let's just hide it so we can get
Why
Sean
not?
Payton. Because hold on, here's the thing. Here's why not. Because if I think Russ is horrible and washed, why am I going to pay Sean Payton?
Because Sean Payton
the goo gobs of millions of dollars it would cost to get him. Because if he's not going to help
Sean
Russ.
Payton got the most out of Drew Brees, a similar quarterback.
You think he's going to help? If Russ is this bad, you think?
Yeah,
I think he'll help Russ.
Yeah.
But I think if you're saying Russ is washed, period.
Yeah.
I don't think he's washed, and I do think Sean Payton would help him a ton.
See,
so
and
that's
I think,
the guy
I think Drew Brees was washed his final year.
But don't you think
and they got to the playoff, you know what I mean? They were a legitimate team.
But Payton had the whole, history with Drew Brees. He was able to build on and tweak and move. If I'm Sean Payton, the first thing I'm doing is calling Pete Carroll. Be like, what's the deal with this guy?
He probably is.
And he's washed? Okay, thanks. I'm not going there. I can choose any open job that's going to be available to me. Maybe the Cowboys job, depending on how
here's the thing. Well, the Cowboys, I don't know if that'll be open. But here's the thing. Drew Brees had lost his job to Phillip Rivers. I mean, they let Drew Brees go out of San Diego so they could play Phillip Rivers. Yeah. So he wasn't as bad as Russ is right now.
No.
but he still wasn't anybody's future Hall of Famer.
No, of course.
And obviously Sean Payton made it work with the dark horse MVP candidate, Jameis Winston. He turned Winston into a dark horse MVP
So that's the thing
candidate.
and then we can move on to the actual Russ stuff. We have seen Jameis for decent lengths of stretches before Sean Payton and after Sean Payton, and looks very similar. And then those 5 games with Sean Payton, he looked like, that somehow he was a dark horse MVP, as Brew puts it. But which he wasn't, but he was playing.
I know you're saying that.
He's playing. He just said
your definition of they and people.
Yeah, so I just think it's a disaster for the Broncos no matter what. The biggest disaster is we fire the coach, we make Outen or whomever the head coach capers, and Russ still looks terrible. But go ahead.
The other news is this, Brew. Your guy Russ, who we thought was going to be out for a long time, looks like he's coming back a little bit early. Said he's ready to go. Wants to play.
Ready to rock.
He does.
He was exercising on the plane. That always helps.
4 hours. So,
Can we show that tweet?
4 hours.
Not reportedly. He said it at the press conference. It's one thing
Just
to
read
do
it
this.
verbatim. Just read
It's
it
another thing to tell everyone you did it. Russell Wilson worked out in
everybody saw
stretch
it.
for 4 of the 8 hours on the flight from Denver to London. Said he was doing high knees in the aisle when the rest of the guys were asleep. That is the type of thing that if I did it, I would offer everyone on the flight money to not tell anyone. Instead, Russ it's Brew.
10 minutes is a long time. 4 hours.
He knows a stewardess, an assistant coach. Somebody was going to spill the beans. That Russ was doing high steps
for the fact,
in the aisle. So why not you? Why don't you do it?
Because there's every reason why not. First one, why not is because it's just more incredibly odd behavior. Second, why not? I don't believe him. Do you believe he was doing it for 4 of the 8 hours?
Well, it wasn't fully high knees. He was doing some stretches.
Right. To me, I put that in the same bucket of he was rehabbing his hand 23 hours a day. Remember that?
That was an odd one.
That was an odd one.
Well, that one, yes, hard to believe.
And
but 4 of the 8 hours, there are people on the plane who could be like, no. It was like 1 hour.
Okay, but who are these people? Who are the stewardesses talking to? What are these people?
There were some on the plane, I know that.
Employed by the Broncos. But I put it in the same bucket as, and we can't show you the footage because we don't have, it's weird NFL Films rights, but Russ on the sideline demanding everyone yell run or pass. So here's the thing that I think you can agree with me on. There's 2 ways to be an effective leader in the NFL at that position. One is be an amazing player. The other is exude cool in a way that Cam did, that Joe Burrow does.
Jimmy G.
Well, you know what? By the way, I was going to include him. I was going to include him.
Really?
Yeah, I think Jimmy G's, I don't think he's a good player. I do think he's a good leader. Cool, and the guys like you, and they rally around you. The best, obviously, have both components, right? So Joe Burrow was an example. He was an excellent player and incredibly cool. I don't think Peyton Manning was ever incredibly cool, but he was so good, people followed. Where it doesn't work is Kyler, Jay Cutler in the past, Russell Wilson right now. You're not good and you're not cool. And why would anyone follow you? And Russ wants to be good. It seems like he doesn't want to be cool. He's married to Sierra.
Yeah, that's right.
Hold on.
You just said it. Mm-hmm. He's married to Sierra.
Somehow he's lame despite
that. makes you cool.
Nope.
Period.
It gives you a huge head start. It gives you a huge head start, and somehow he's fumbled the bag there too. He shouldn't. Do you think you thought of being unfair to Russ in the past?
Look, I feel like you've taken some shots at Russ. Go Badgers, but I felt like what you just did was totally fair. Yeah. So I'm sorry. Bro.
Married to Sierra doesn't make him cool.
It gives him a head
start.
Not
through the cool finish line yet. No. Here's the other issue,
with
bro.
witty sayings. Let's ride.
See, that's not a witty.
He did say it again. Here's the other thing, bro. The guy played 149 straight games before he got hurt last year. Right. Hurt his finger. Then he started putting out those finger workout videos, and we were like, what are you doing there? He's like pounding into rice. He's like, I'm working this out. He came back and was not good. His completion percentage, 50, 54, 65. They lost 3 games. I don't think he knows how to be hurt. Not emotionally.
So you think he should stay out?
Yeah, I think it's we just did it. We just saw you come back too early and be horrible. Now all of a sudden, he's ready to go.
But don't you like that?
No.
I want my guy to want to be on the field.
No.
We saw the replacement last week. And I mean, Russ hasn't been good.
This is going to hurt him, Brew. It's the same. Look, we saw it last year with Baker. I think Justin Herbert's a little bit hurt. We saw Mac Jones. Go out there when you're ready to go. Otherwise, you're going to put bad tape out there, and it's just going to be the knives are getting even sharper for him.
Look, he's got the money. He can afford bad tape. He's not going anywhere. He got $245 million coming this way.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.